this opportunity to gather together. We thank you for the book of Proverbs, a book that is designed by you to lead us in the direction of wisdom, your wisdom. And I know that you have a message for us from the book of Proverbs today, and please guide me and how I approach it, and open our hearts and our minds to what you have to say to us this morning. And I pray these things in your name, Lord Jesus. Amen. Kind of an odd title maybe, but you'll get it. Be careful who you hang with. We're looking at verses 8 through 19 of the first chapter of the book of Proverbs. Proverbs, we are talking about wisdom. I think we made that kind of clear last week. We're talking about wisdom. We're talking about how to get wisdom, what wisdom looks like, and all of that sort of thing. Now, what society will do, and it will really work at very, very hard, is to try to convince all of us in culture, all of us in society, that there is somehow a difference between real wisdom and biblical wisdom. That there's a distinction there. And it's interesting because they do the same thing in the business world. They do the same thing with business practices and biblical business practices. That there's a difference. And it's a meaningful difference. It's not just adding a word. That it's a meaningful difference. And my good friend Paul Norton and I used to do business by the book seminars. Still occasionally do. But we used to do those all the time. And one of the biggest hurdles was convincing business people, young and old, that biblical business practices were simply good business practices. That you don't lie and cheat and steal. And you do business the right way and treat your employees the right way. But the world works overtime to convince people. You wouldn't believe how many times I've heard the statement from very good business people that will say things like, I would really love to do that, but I can't run my business according to biblical business principles because then all my competitors would have an advantage and we'd fail. I mean, that's the mindset that's out there. That's what the world has been pounding in. So when we talk about wisdom, we are talking about biblical wisdom, which is just wisdom. It's the right kind of wisdom. It's the kind of wisdom that really matters. There's no distinction. There's wisdom, and then there's acting a fool. And, I can't put it any other way. If you want an act a fool, act a fool. But don't try to claim that as some form of wisdom, because it's one way or the other. Are you going to seek wisdom, or are you going to act a fool? It's really as simple as that. God makes no attempt to hide his wisdom from us. We see it in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 20, the verse we'll be starting out with next week. Wisdom cries aloud in the street. In the market she raises her voice. Guess what, everybody? I'm not hiding this stuff from you. It's right out in the open. We're, in essence, screaming it at you. God wants us to get it. We just need to be humble enough to seek it. And the book of Proverbs is intended to be a practical help in finding wisdom. So let's look at our text for today, which is Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8 through verse 19. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching. For they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without reason. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse. I love that one. Just, conspire with us and we'll share it, will we? Sure. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. For in vain is spread a net in the sight of any bird. But these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. We start in verses 8 and 9 with an obvious source for wisdom. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching. My son, was and is a customary way of addressing a disciple in Hebrew culture. It could be a child, it could be somebody else that had been given to you for care and teaching, someone that's in your charge. And the use of that terminology, the son, and the way it's structured is indicative of the fact that the instruction is designed to be imparted to someone who's younger. It's suited for the younger person. And that's because the younger person has the majority of their life laying out in front of them. And they will face significant decisions that will chart the course of their lives moving forward. Wise people will remember the lessons their parents taught them. And then we have to ask the question, well, what if your parents, your biological parents, didn't really fit that bill? That's where the Hebrew use of the word son kind of comes in. Because God will bring into your life, I think we can see it, I definitely have. Listen, it was in many ways, without sounding terribly denigrating, my reaction to the way that my biological parents did things was kind of the George Costanza approach. Just do the opposite. You know, I mean, it was, if you think that's what you should do, just do the opposite. And they tried, but fortunately the Lord brought people in my life that were kind of fit that role, fit that father and mother figure. Men and women who were just like fathers and mothers. It's been that way for me here at home. I have men here that are like older brothers, younger brothers, uncles, fathers, you know, I mean, that fit that role. Women who fit the role of like a mother to me. I mean, those are the kinds of things. Just because your parents may be older does not mean that their advice is outdated or pointless, which is often the approach that younger people have a tendency to take. What do you know? Times have changed. Things are different now. So kind of keep that to yourself. And when they listen, it can kind of become a pleasant surprise. I was in a van with a group of younger pastors headed down to Portland, and they didn't look to me they weren't saying, we want your advice on how to be a pastor, because I was looking to them for that, because they had been pastors far longer than I had. But it was interesting, one of them said, and you know, they start out with the whole, why don't you sit in the front seat? That's where the older people need to go. I think they were worried about me getting car sick or something. You know, like the feeble old man was going to be in the back of the van kind of throwing up, and then they'd have to clean up the mess, you know, that sort of thing. But, you know, they joked about that. But then one of them, we were about at DuPont, and one of them said, you know, Eric, you're a lot older than us. And I thought, here we go. And they said, and you've been through a lot more things than we've been through. Do you mind if we pick your brain we're going to be in this van going down and coming back. Can we pick your brain about stuff? I thought, my goodness, the earth has shifted on its axis. I mean, somebody wants to know what I think about something. Oh my God, you know, I mean, it can be kind of encouraging. But listen to your parents or other mentors, because when you listen, and you listen well, you'll be setting yourself up for success. Verse 9 speaks of a garland for your head and pendants for your neck. For they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck. What is this author talking about? What does that mean? Those are the symbols of victory in that culture. I mean, you got a wreath on your head and a medal around your neck when you won the race. They will guide you in that direction. They will help you get there if you just pay attention. God put parents and your mentors into your life to teach you, to shape you, to protect you, so listen to them. And I'm just going to say, women hold a very special place in terms of imparting wisdom. Not just imparting wisdom, but how they impart wisdom. I hear it, you know, I hear it with Debbie and Rachel. Debbie will say things to Rachel like, is that really the best choice, Rach? I'm not doing the voice, I'm just saying, is that the best choice, Rach? And what'll happen 9 times out of 10, it's really funny, she won't say this in front of her mother, but she'll say, yeah, Mom was right. And she says it kind of in a disgusted way, you know, it's like, Mom was right. But she says it, she acknowledges that, you know, that's the case. I mean, it's really funny. it drives Rachel nuts, but she knows that A, her mom's got her best interest at heart, and her mom is probably telling her something she needs to listen to, as much as she doesn't want to. And trust me, I get the same kind of impartation. I get, did you think about this? And I've got to get a whole lot better at going, yeah, maybe I should listen to that. Yeah, moms in particular have an incredible insight. And I saw it, it absolutely amazed me, because when Rachel was an infant, Debbie would at times go, all of a sudden kind of sit up and she'd go, she's sick. And we'd go into the back, and there was one time when I went into the bedroom, picked Rachel's bed and picked her up out of the crib, and I said, she's not sick. all down the front of me. I guess you're right, I guess she's sick. But there was one time that both Rachel and I remember, and we to this day don't know what it was, in terms of the insight. Debbie went to a women's retreat, and Rachel had been talking to me about wanting to see the movie The Godfather. Okay? She's small. She's like 8, 9, something like that. And so that wasn't on the approved list. But you know, Dad's a soft touch, right? Baby girl wants to watch The Godfather. Baby girl's going to watch The Godfather. And it's also, look, there's also some personal motivation in that, because what do you want to watch? Barney, the whatever Barney was, hippopotamus, or The Godfather, I mean, do you want to spend your time going, singing along with Barney, or, hey, Fredo? But, it's one of those things. So we watched The Godfather, and literally, it went back and forth multiple times. Don't tell Mom we watched The Godfather. Don't tell your mom we watched The Godfather. We were set. We were dialed. I mean, this was ready. And Debbie was at a women's retreat, and she walks in the room, and within moments goes, so, you guys watch The Godfather? To this day, we don't know how she knows. We did not know how she knew. Look, I checked out all the things, because that's back in the day when you rented videos. I actually asked the video store, did my wife call them? No. We had no idea how she knew, and she won't say. So if any of you can pry it out of her, then, but now she knows. She knows that, but anyway. So, but that's what I mean about insight, wisdom, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's there. I didn't mean to go down that track, but whatever. But you know about your kids, you know about your family, you know about your husband, you know about people at church, you have insight, and God's given that to you as a gift. And people need to listen when it happens. People need to listen to that. God has put people in our lives to speak. Look, when it comes to kind of mother figures, I have been given people like that at this church. You know who you are. And look, I can get going. I will talk with one of them. I don't want to single them out because, it's important to me, but there's a number. And this is, and I get wound up and start going, you wouldn't believe it, this is, I can't know, what should I do? I don't know what to, well, when it starts out with well, I know that I'm going to be told something that I probably don't want to hear, but it's something I need to hear. And that's the kind of wisdom that I need in my life and that we need in our lives. I need to listen. I may not want to, but I need to. But starting with verse 10, Solomon deals with some of the things that can lead us astray. And who we hang with, who are our friends, who are the people that we spend our time with, plays a big role. There are a couple of old sayings that are really on point. If you run with dogs, you'll get fleas. And show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Who you are spending time and listening to is critical. It will have a huge impact on the direction of your life. What will we become will be determined in significant ways by the company we keep. Paul puts it succinctly in 1 Corinthians 15:33. Don't be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. I mean, that is, if you run with dogs, you're going to get fleas. We have to ask ourselves a couple of questions as part of this discussion. The first question is, who do I spend my time with? Who are my friends? Second, do the people I hang out with encourage my faith, or do they encourage me in the direction of compromise and sin? What are they encouraging? What is their focus on? And you will find, I will tell you something, one of the things that we're really talking about here is not just friends, we're talking about community. Okay, who are the people that you're around? Because I can tell you something, for everybody that's trying to move forward in your life and make change and make positive change and head in a direction that God wants you to go, the enemy is going to, hey, have you thought about talking to Eric over there? I mean, the enemy wants people to come around you who are going to drag you down. Hey, let's go have some fun. You know, let's do this, let's do that. That's why community is so critically important. Not a judgmental community, not a church lady, a church guy community, but people who truly care about you, who really want the best for you. Those are the people that we need to seek out in our lives, the people that want the best for us. Not from a prideful way, but just because God intends people to be around us to build us up. If you have the chance to build somebody up, don't shirk it. Step into it. Tell them about your life. Tell them what's going on. Tell them how you address it. Speak into their lives. Be part of that community. Be willing to say, I need somebody in my life for that. I mean, two of the guys that when I initially did devotions at the rescue mission in the men's New Life program, a couple of guys came up to me and said, hey, and it was just part of a conversation. But they were two guys, they were in community, they knew each other, they cared about each other. And turns out both of them were going to take a bus ride down on South Tacoma Way to go to an appointment that they had. And so they went to each other and said, hey, let's go on the same bus. Great idea. They discovered that both of them independently were going to be driving by on the bus their connection, where they're connected with the guy that they'd gotten narcotics from. And they wanted somebody with them to keep them strong. Both of them independently doing it. They didn't start out telling each other, hey, we're going to be driving past my connection's house. Do you mind riding on the bus with me so I don't screw up? They both felt that way, but the important thing was they were in community with each other, and they knew they could rely on the people in their community to build them up, not tear them down, to lead them in the right direction, not tear them down and take them down the wrong path. We have to be willing to do that. And that requires transparency. That requires being able to look at somebody and say, you know, I don't feel strong right now. And I need you to be around me to help boost me up. And being understanding and willing to say that me saying I'm vulnerable and I'm weak in this moment does not make me a weak person. It makes me a strong person. Because I understand where I could go wrong and I don't want to. That's why community, and that's what this whole deal about who you hang with is so important. It really is all about community, because if you isolate off by yourself, you are going to get in a train wreck. I think we've all seen it happen. Whereas they don't come out of the house. And there's medical things that can keep people from coming out of the house. I know that. But the devil wants you to isolate yourself. He doesn't want you around. I've told the example of cutting horses so many times, you're probably sick of it. But it's the way it works with cutting horses. The whole point is to take that calf away from the herd of calves and take them off on their own. And that's why that horse bobs and weaves. It's keeping the calf from coming back to the safety and security of the other calves. And what happens every single time is at a certain point, that calf just gives up. I mean, one of the things when you're in a cutting horse competition, you don't want the real weak-willed calf. You want the strong-willed calf, because you're going to have a run to rack up some points. You don't want the calf to go, oh, I guess I'll give up. I mean, you want that calf that's fighting to get back. But even the calf that's fighting to get back, you keep them separated from the herd long enough, they will just wander off and give up. And that's what the enemy wants from all of us. He wants us to just wander off and give up. That's why community is critically important. And these are the questions that really this section of Proverbs is all about. And the really big question is this: how do wise people respond when they are enticed by sin? Verse 10, my son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. Pretty simple. Pretty straightforward. Don't do it. It kind of pretties it up a little bit. If sinners entice you, do not consent. Hey, if they take a run at you, don't be stupid. Don't do it. Just say no. Sin has to be rejected at the point of first enticement. And I think that's a critical thing. The point of first enticement. By refusing to even to get in association with or proximity with someone that can lead you down the path to sin. The word entice is kind of interesting. It means to bait, to attract via means of deceitfulness or underhandedness. If you are being enticed to do something, I feel pretty confident in saying to you, it's not a good thing. If somebody's gonna entice you or has to entice you to get involved in some kind of mess, it's mess. It's not a good thing. When sinners work to entice you, just say no. Don't let the thought of a momentary thrill or pleasure take you down a very bad path. Because that's where it starts, by the way, in the thought life. Any kind of thing, look, I have never been involved in any kind of affairs or anything like that, but I know people who have. Okay? And this is not one of those situations where, a friend of mine, I mean, it's not that. But I have known people, and it always starts with fantasy, which means it starts in the head. It starts by thinking about it. And it starts that way for everything. Well, if I went to that bar, it'd be nice. It'd be fun. Be noise, be people. You start thinking about it. I'd relax. It's been really rough. It's been a tough couple of weeks. A couple of pain pills right now might not be bad. Then you start thinking about how it would feel. Then you start thinking about how to get the pain pills. Then you start thinking about where to go to get the pain pills. Then you're going to get the pain pills. Then you're taking the pain pills. It starts in the head. It starts in the thought process. Don't let yourself get to there. Take every thought captive. That's what Paul tells us to do. Take every thought captive. And that's what he means by that. Be around, take your thoughts captive. But one of the ways to do that is to be around the kind of people who aren't going to try to plant that seed, that sin seed in your head, and who are also going to be the ones that will help you take your thoughts captive. Let's not go there, dude. That kind of thing. Solomon gives us next some examples of red flags in verses 11 through 12. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without reason. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole, like those who go down to the pit. Anyone who tells you that it is okay to hurt people to get what you think you want or to get ahead is simply a dangerous person. Dangerous to others and to you. And while the example that's used in these two verses is one of physically hurting somebody, we can't limit it to simply physical harm. Anyone who tries to entice you to use people, abuse people, manipulate people, lie to people, or mistreat people, those are just bad guys. Verses 15 through 16 put our response to that very clearly. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. You'll notice a couple of themes that repeat in Proverbs, particularly in the first 9 chapters, over and over again. Walk and paths. It's a visual. Walking is walking with somebody. Walking is taking action. Walking is heading in a direction. And a path is the way you're going. And these are visual things that the writer Solomon wants people to see and know and trigger on. and realize that that's what it's all about. If you look at Proverbs 4, verse 14, do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the way of the evil. And Psalm 1:1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. To put it as simply as I can, don't go there. Verses 13 through 16. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot with us, and we will all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with him. This is the response to that. My son, do not walk in the way with him. Hold back your foot from their paths, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Verse 13 is a classic example of a red flag. Any kind of offer for easy gain. Hear it like this. We'll make a ton of money, and if people fall for it, it's on them. They're big people. They're grown-ups. We'll make a ton of money. And if they fall for it, they're grown-ups. Big deal. But the real tip-off to these kinds of people is the irony of their enticement. Throw in your lot with us and we will have one purse. In other words, let's take advantage of them. But you can trust us to take care of you. We're going to take advantage of them out there, but hey, we're all in this together. It's one purse. Yeah, we're going to put all the loot in this bag here, but we'll split it up with you later. And your cut will be an even cut. Really? You think so? How could you ever consider trusting somebody who would be more than willing to destroy others with reckless abandon for their own personal gain? How could you trust that person? And Solomon makes it clear what our response should be, again in verses 15, 16. I don't mean to beat it, but I'm going to beat it to death. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths. Don't be with them, don't walk with them, and keep off the path they're on. For their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. As we go through Proverbs, look at these themes that keep coming up. The way, the past, kind of the common things that are meant to be images for us in terms of how we live our life. Wisdom is all about crossing a threshold in life and making good decisions in terms of choosing the right directions, in terms of what you do for a living, your friends, your spouse, your character, and your ethics. It's about making choices. And it's about people that can help you make good choices or lead you to make very bad choices. Be on guard for anyone who promises you wealth without work. I mean, look, we've all had that one. I'd like to talk to you about the exciting world of Amway. And look, there are certain programs that have value, and I'm not trying to create problems. But it's one of those things where you just kind of say, what is this about? What is it about? What do we need to do? What should we be doing? Anybody who promises you wealth without work should be an absolute huge red flag. Friendship without any commitment. Friends, true, genuine friends, are making a commitment to each other. There's a value there. I mean, and it's an accountability thing. One of the reasons why I have been truly blessed with the guys that I went to Kazakhstan with is when we were around each other all the time, if one of us strayed off path, the others would notice, and they'd say something. They would have the fortitude to say something. And one of the things we lost a little bit was in COVID when we were not around each other that much. That's one of the things and one of the wicked things about COVID was tearing down community and relationships. I mean, I don't care how much Zoom you watch. It's tough. It's tough to have that same level of relationship and community over a Zoom call as it is in person. I was just up in Linden last Friday. I love going up there. And it's, it's 2 hours up, 2.5 hours up and 3 hours back. And there's many times when I'd like to just do it on Zoom. And it's 2 hours on Zoom and I ain't got wear and tear on my car and on me. And I'm not getting up at 2:45 in the morning to be in Linden by 7. There's a lot of allure to that. But I totally miss the actual relationship with people. That's why it's the whole idea of being able to do things online. You can't. You just can't. It's not the same. I don't care. It's not the same. And pleasure without any consequence. Watch out for that stuff. Do not listen to or agree to take the counsel of these people. Do not get played by their view on sin. Because what they are offering is exactly what culture wants us to latch onto. Then Solomon turns our attention to the fact that wise people recognize that evil people will always ignore the cost of sin. Verses 17 through 19. For in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird. But these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. It always cracked me up when I was, and look, I've fallen victim to this myself. And victim is probably the wrong word, because you're not a victim. You go into this stuff consciously. But it always used to crack me up when people that I was defending in criminal charges would say almost the same thing every time. Well, they assured me we weren't going to get caught. Well, Bubba, did you think that they went into this thinking they were going to get caught? There's nary one of them that thinks they're going to get caught. They don't go into this going, I'm going to steal some money, and then I'll get caught. And then I'll learn a trade. I mean, it's not the way it works. They never think they're going to get caught. They really believe what they're saying. And apparently you believed what they were saying too. Solomon's point is this. Sin will be what destroys those who sin. Sin will never lead to blessing, peace, or genuine happiness. You will always be looking over your shoulder. And you can bank on the fact that your so-called friends will eventually turn on you. They will rat you out. I mean, people that get involved in mess are more than happy to tattle on the people that they're getting in mess with to try to avoid the consequences of the mess. We used to refer to it as the race to the game. You had 5 guys committing a burglary together, and 5 guys were trying to be the first person into the prosecutor's office to cut a deal. It was all his idea. I was just the driver. And you didn't know anything, I mean, come on. But it was a race to the game. And that's what will happen. You think there's loyalty from people that want to get you involved in their mess? Nope. If they will sin with you, you can bet that they will be more than happy to sin against you. Sin is both destructive and self-destructive. And that's Solomon's whole point here in these last couple of verses is these people are they're digging a pit for themselves. They are digging a pit trying to entrap somebody else in their pit. And who's really going to get caught in the pit ultimately is them. The pattern of the wicked falling into their own pit in verse 18 is a theme we see repeated in Scripture. One example is in the book of Esther, where Haman is hung from the same gallows he had intended for Mordecai. We see it in Esther chapter 7, verse 10. This is one of those times, and the Proverbs is really this way for me overall. The two versions, I look at the Proverbs in the ESV, which is my favorite version of the Bible, and then I will also look at the Proverbs via the Message translation. And I've referred to it in the past as the Thug translation of the Bible. And I will read to you the Message translation of verses 12 through 19. Let's pick them clean and get them ready for their funerals. We'll load up on top quality loot. We'll haul it home by the truckload. Join us for the time of your life. With us, it's share and share alike. Oh, friend, don't give them a second look. Don't listen to them for a minute. They're racing to a very bad end, hurrying to ruin everything they lay their hands on. Nobody robs a bank with everyone watching. Yet that is what these people are doing. They're doing themselves in. When you grab all you can get, that's what happens. The more you get, the less you are. Lady Wisdom. Solomon